Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining me for this IPA talk. Grateful to have with me a colleague and good friend, State Superintendent of Schools here in Illinois, Dr. Tony Sanders. Tony, thanks for hopping on with me for a few moments here in the morning. Even as you're coming out of a little COVID time, I'll just put it out there since you're going to hear it in your voice anyway. So sure, sorry about that, but glad you're looking good. And as I said before we started the recording here, I got to up my tie game, man. That's a sharp pink combo you got going. I mean, seriously, I like it. Looks good.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been trying to up my style game, trying. But you're right. You'll hear a little bit of remnants of an illness from last week, but I'm now completely negative. So I've tested
Good.
COVID negative, but it just is another reminder that it still sticks with us.
Yep,
So make sure you're
right.
vaccinated, get all your shots for the flu, pneumonia, and COVID while you're at it.
No
So
kidding. No kidding. For sure. For sure. Yeah, my wife being a school nurse, she would definitely agree with that. Just contending with the kids and all that stuff because it's a big petri dish at any school, right? With all those things that everybody's bringing in. So that's definitely good advice. So Tony, we're starting off here with the school year. Know that you've been out and about visiting some schools already, which you always do. So just curious if you have any thoughts for folks as we're getting started.
I do. So first of all, I just want to just uplift the work that our principals do every day that they show up in schools. It's amazing and important work that does not come with enough gratitude. And so, on behalf of the State Board of Education, thank you to our principals and our teachers and our superintendents for all that they do every day for our 1.9 million school children. I've had a chance to visit a few schools so far. I've got more school visits coming up. As you know, Jason, I like to spend at least one day a week visiting schools. I think, I did that as a local superintendent. I tried to make sure I was in schools regularly. And when I applied for this job and had the conversation with the governor, I told him, I said, I've got to be able to be in schools on a regular basis, or else this job is just not going to be as fulfilling for me, and I won't want to do it.
Yep.
And so I try to spend one day a week in schools. So I've visited a few schools so far, and I can tell you that my first takeaway is things feel so normal again. It feels really, really good to be back in schools. Kids are, at least the schools that I visited, the students seem to be acclimating themselves really quickly to being back in school. It just feels different. It's last year felt a little bit better, but I think this year is really going to feel again like a truly normal school year, which I'm really excited about. I think we all need that.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, just to remind ourselves what we're here for and dealing with the issues that we're used to, right? Rather than these things that these curveballs that get thrown at us. And I know, and you know this, Tony, from just being out and about, but those in the field definitely appreciate your presence and being there. And also you encouraging your team to be present and out in the field as well.
Absolutely. We truly are trying. So you'll see the hashtag out and about with ISBE. And we really do. Over the last year and a half, I've really encouraged our ISBE team members to go visit schools and do their job, but in a local school district so that they have an understanding of what happens in schools on a regular basis. And I've been really pleased to see so many of our team volunteer their time to go work out of a school district or out of a school central office. It's been, I think, hopefully beneficial for our ISBE team members, but also beneficial to the districts that host. I think then you get a better understanding of ISBE and, a better understanding of what happens behind the scenes at the state level.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about what your focus and the state board's focus is here for the year ahead. Tony, as we're getting into the start of the year here fully now, what are some things that you're concentrating on?
We continue to be driven by our strategic plan. As you know, when I came in, we didn't go through a full-fledged strategic planning process. I didn't want to take the time to really rethink the buckets of work. I think the buckets across most districts and across most Schools remain the same, student achievement, elevating educators, and then, of course, the conditions for learning. And so we continue to do work in those three areas specifically. I think top of mind for us, we're really trying to move the agency away from we have to be a compliance agency, obviously, right? We that's just one of our charges. However, we also want to be engaged deeply in the instructional work that's happening in the state. And so last year, we did a lot of work around the comprehensive literacy plan, gathered a lot of feedback from the field, and we have now a really robust set of resources and guides and rubrics for schools to use for implementing the comprehensive literacy plan. And for our principal friends out there, if you've not read it, if you've not taken the time to review it, please do so. It is quality work. It's fully vetted, and it really tells you when you visit classrooms what it is that you should be seeing in classrooms that's occurring that are best practices around literacy instruction. So for this upcoming year, I think we were able to get $3 billion from the General Assembly to support the comprehensive literacy plan. We'll be rolling that out to help support districts that need curricular resources or professional learning. But we also recognize that math is also an important topic, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't want to be told to do something around math. And so we're going to start the process now of working on a comprehensive math plan.
Yeah.
So that we can follow the same type of feedback sessions, but really we need a similar document for our math instruction across the state as we have now for the comprehensive literacy plan. So that's something you're going to be hearing a lot about, I think, over the next year and a half, as we really try to drive progress in math. As you know, our math scores are actually lower than our English language arts results. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and we've actually been shown to make some good progress and recovery post the pandemic, particularly with literacy, not as much with mathematics. So that it definitely makes sense to do this. And and this is consistent with the drumbeat that I've been sharing with our members, maybe to the point that they're tired of hearing me say it. But the fact that the agency and then all of us in the field can be getting ahead of this before it's mandated and we get legislation that maybe we won't appreciate. Even as I was meeting with our Wabash Valley region last night, just sharing with them, if you haven't looked at the literacy plan, it's important to be doing so. Even if you just print it off today and set it on your desk so that it's sitting there as a reminder that you need to do it. Yep. So that, because we've been able to work with the General Assembly and encourage them, listen, don't pass mandates yet. Don't put it down that path. Let's really be working with the field to have some autonomy to take the good work and then make it happen based within their own context. So grateful for a little bit of vision here to get ahead of this now.
Yeah, and just a warning for our principals and teachers. You remember when Common Core state standards, when everybody had to adopt the Common Core state standards, and all of a sudden, which is hard work. Everybody that's unpacked the standards knows it's not easy to unpack the standards and make determinations about, where are the holes in your curriculum. But you still had a bunch of companies that would suddenly slap a label on their product and say Common Core aligned. And even though nothing changed, right? It was the same resource, same curriculum guide, whatever it was, but they just slapped a sticker on it. Be cautious, because there's, I've already seen a lot of companies putting stickers on things saying it's aligned to the Illinois Comprehensive Literacy Plan. There is no such endorsement from the State Board of Education or from any organization that says that something's aligned to our comprehensive literacy plan. So you be a good consumer. Don't make those assumptions that if it has a sticker on it, that it is aligned. As you know, and I think we all know, instruction doesn't move like that. Right? You have to be able to internalize, adapt your instruction if you're a teacher based on your new learnings. There are a lot of great resources out there, a lot of great texts that teachers can use and principals can use to make the shifts towards a more science of reading approach to literacy. But it's not just buying a product that has a sticker on it.
That's right. Well, and we
So
know we've got good quality educators out there that can make good decisions, regardless of what the curriculum is saying,
absolutely.
whatever, based off of what they know from what the literacy plan knows or says, as well as, their own work in the subject area as well. So I think that's good advice, and I think we learned a lot of lessons during the Common Core implementation phase that we can carry forward to where we
I
are
agree.
now. So pivoting here just a bit, another thing that I know is of interest to you this year, beyond the literacy and numeracy work, that I'm grateful for is looking at our assessment system. And you've started a while ago a pretty open, transparent process of how to look at our assessments, how we are scoring our assessments,
Mhm.
and some thoughts about that moving forward. So what's kind of the end game as far as our state assessment system, at least in the next 6 to 12 months, Tony?
Absolutely. So we're, getting close to report cards for 2024. They come out, at October 31st. Everybody knows that. That's going to be the regular report card with the same old cut scores using SAT, obviously, because the kids took SAT last year or during this last school year. But long term, and we've been very open about this, there's three really big areas of work that we're trying to tackle in a very thoughtful way and taking our time to do so, so we make sure we get it right. And the first one, as you mentioned, is that Illinois, for the last 6 or 7 years, has had a cut score that is higher than what the College Board says is college ready for our graduating high schoolers. Um, we have the fourth highest cut score in the nation. And that's not just a problem for our high school teachers and principals. It's also a problem for our elementary folks because we use that exact same, we backward map those results then down to the IAR to project out how students are performing at elementary schools. And so for the last several years, we've been telling a whole crop of kids that have gone off to college and have been successful in college and have taken AP in high school and have taken dual credit in high school and done all sorts of amazing things that made them college ready. We've told them, you're not college ready.
Right.
And so we've been mislabeling students. And I want to make it very clear, we're not lowering our standards. We're right sizing our standards
Yeah.
so that our kids are not disadvantaged relative to their peers in other states. I think that makes sense to most people.
As a parent of several kids still in school, it makes a lot of sense to me because I don't like the story that has been being told about my own children. So I'm grateful for this.
I mean, if you look at our data, 32 or so percent of our students proficient in any subject or in the 30th percentile, when we know that does not fit with the national averages, nor does it fit with the percentage of students that progress on to college and are successful in college here in the state of Illinois. So we know there's a mismatch here. And so we're working to fix that. We've put out a call for rewriting the standards that go into what we measure on our statewide assessments. That work is underway. I've appreciated IPA and all of the state groups that have solicited professionals from the field to help us give us that feedback on what needs to go into the assessments. So that's one, is resetting those cut scores. And that will kick in not on this year's report card, but the following year's report card. The second piece of that work is that while we've been mislabeling students as failure in many cases, we've also set up a system of accountability that still ranks and sorts school districts. And you know this. The top 10% of our schools in the state, when you rank and sort all their scores, are exemplary, and only 10% can be
Yeah.
exemplary. And so if Jason's school district this year is exemplary, but next year stays the same, right? You might have the exact same scores, but another district might have improved a little bit more than yours.
Yep.
Suddenly you're knocked off the list and you're commendable.
Yep.
And then on the other side, you've got our bottom 5% that we have to label as either comprehensive or targeted. And that leaves in the middle 75% of our schools being labeled as commendable. So the term commendable in Illinois applies to schools on this spectrum. 0% of kids proficient in English language arts and math, all the way to 72% of students proficient in English language arts and math. That's a pretty wide swath for labeling commendable.
Yeah.
And so we want to move to a criterion referenced report card. Try to break away from the rank and sort to the best of our ability. We're looking for feedback now on what the categories might be called. So that's one area that people can currently give us feedback. I don't want to make this a punitive system that really labels schools as, again, being failures, but we do need to make sure that we give schools appropriate data to drive continuous school improvement. And I don't think our current labeling of commendable does that work. Not when that's the range of scores available for a commendable school, if that makes sense.
And you and I have had some conversations about this. I think what's really exciting and interesting about looking at this overall, it's a good time to do it because of the work that's happening with the cut scores with assessments and getting those in order. But then not only looking at the scores themselves, but also what are some leading indicator kinds of work that we know schools need to be doing that will get them the results that will where they want to be, right? Let's make sure that we're putting in the practices that we know, get better achievement from our students, like instructional coaching. I mean, that's one of those things that we just know improves student performance when you've got teachers in those deep conversations about their instructional practice and doing it with their peers. I mean, we've known this. We've all gone to school and learned about what they've done in Japan related to this and how that has helped kids do better. So we need to be sure to be doing that, just as one example, and schools being able to get credit for that kind of work and implementing those practices.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, to the extent, and I don't want to overpromise anything.
Of course.
We have to do this work, and it will do it as well. It's going to take some time, but to your point, in my dream world, we certainly have to have the academic performance indicators. That's a requirement of the federal government. They're not going to waive anything. More than likely, they're not going to waive anything regarding the academic requirements of testing kids. But to your point, if we can give credit for things to schools where you can earn an exemplary status by academic indicators, in addition to being a trauma-informed school or having a resiliency certification. Yeah. If you have a bilingual population greater than some percentage, if you build and create a dual language system, which is best practice for language instruction, could we give you credit for that? Could we give you credit for aligning your leadership practices to your paradigm, right? I mean, there's so many different things that we could think about differently that would actually drive, I think, greater school improvement than what we see in our current system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, excited about that. Now, Tony, I know something that's related to this, and I know we kind of talked about discussing it, but if it's okay, I'm going to save it for a future IPA talk, just in the essence of time for yourself. But one will be also looking at the statewide system of support to make sure that we've got then the supports in place that are needed for schools to be moving in that direction, which of course knowing what the target is will help with that, right? But I know something that's going to be on people's minds already. We know this process really starts fairly soon here in the fall as we're looking at the next legislative session in the spring, and that's of course the budget. I know you and your team have already, I'm sure, had some preliminary conversations about this. I know, of course, the governor and his team are highly involved in that process. So I know it's very early, and you've also got to be careful about how much you're talking about. It's just, you talk about overpromising. Sure don't want to do that here, but just kind of curious about anything you can offer of what we might be able to be expecting here as far as the budget for this next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's lost on anybody that the last year's budget was a little bit tighter at the state level. We were so lucky that we were able to get our $350 million for EBF, that we were able to get the teacher vacancy grants. we were able to get a lot in the state budget. Education fared really well in a very tight fiscal year. So
Yep.
first of all, I would encourage anybody to reach out to your legislators and thank them for continuing to prioritize education. As we head into this next fiscal year, our state, just like local school districts, face this ESSER cliff. We have relied a lot on federal dollars to sustain a lot of different programs. Some of the things that we've been able to sustain at the state using those federal resources include our principal mentoring program and the teacher mentoring program, the SEL hubs across the state. Those we were able to continue with some federal funds this year, but they were not able to accommodate those in the state budget in this current fiscal year. So I think as we head into next fiscal year and you see the last minute spend down of all those ESSER dollars, the state's going to face another tight fiscal year. And so I think principals need to be prepared for that. I think you need to be prepared for a reduction, obviously, in the federal ESSER dollars and a reduction probably in the overall state spend in all areas. Now, that's just me prognosticating. I don't have any insight in intelligence on that. We will still go through our series of budget hearings. We call in the governor's office of management and budget to give us projections at a regular board meeting. I encourage anybody to watch those meetings when they occur. We'll do our roundtables of budget hearings where we can get feedback on what people think we should be doing and asking the legislature for. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a tight fiscal year, and we're going to have to do a lot of work to advocate to sustain EBF and other programs.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's worth noting that EBF at its current funding level, while there's been a push to increase that from 350 to 550 or more, that has been an unbelievable gift to school districts. I know we had that one year where we went flat just because of working through the pandemic, but for us to have received that increase in funding the years that we have up to this point, and obviously hope to see it continue. You and I both can recall the days from decades ago, or even 10 years ago, of proration, or maybe $100 million. And of course, this is over during the years where the formula was based on student attendance and a whole variety of other factors. But it's really terrific for our state to have the model it does and to be funding schools at the level that it has, and those increases that we receive.
It's an incredible, the EBF has been transformational for our state. It'll always be the number one thing that the state board will put in its budget request year over year. I don't think that we would have fared nearly as well during COVID if we hadn't have passed that before COVID hit. I have all the praise for the governor and members of the General Assembly that continue to support EBF. It is, it's a necessity. It really is.
Yeah.
But to your point, when that bill passed, we all kind of all the people at the table were making some commitments of what we would ask for. And we continue to say 350 million would be what we would ask year over year, and look for that consistency for our school districts. And that's just a promise. The promise I'm going to continue to keep is to ask for the 350, but I'm not going to ever encourage us to go above that for any one particular year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, consistency and for planning purposes obviously is welcome. So we sure appreciate that. Well, Tony, sure grateful as always for you spending a few minutes with me here, and of course the membership here within the organization. We'll look forward to seeing you at our annual conference here in a month or so in October.
I can't wait. I look forward to sharing more about the accountability system and some of the work around the statewide system of support. So, Jason,
Perfect.
Thanks for all you do, and thank you again to all of your members for everything they do to support our amazing school children here in Illinois. It's a big job they have, and they deserve a lot of praise for showing up every day and doing the work that they do.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, thanks for those sentiments, and we'll see you probably real soon here down the road. So, yeah, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director here at IPA with our State Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Tony Sanders. As always, if there's anything that IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to give us a call or check us out on the web at www.ilprinciples.org. Take care.